everybody and welcome to Amphlett Reviews, back with a Hong Kong content review, continuing with the Shaw Brothers theme, with titles starting with Lady apparently. Lady with the Sword is the one for today. Previously have done the Lady Assassin, and it did occur to me as well that ATA did actually release a little while ago, back in 2025, the Lady is the Boss, which is absolutely excellent. Highly recommend that if you want a good laugh, if you want to see something quite unique. Definitely want to check out for sure. And for today's video, we're diving into Lady with the Sword, released in 1971, directed by K. Pao Shu, if I'm saying that correctly. I do apologize. I believe this is a, if I'm not mistaken, one of the first Shaw Brothers female directors a part of that lineup. I could be completely mistaken on that. I don't believe I've seen anything else in terms of the collection or ones I've reviewed on the channel that has a female director, which lends itself to be a quite unique and fascinating kind of perspective in terms of a female director doing the classic kind of Shaw Brothers revenge storyline, which does feature a main leading woman compared to the Lady Assassin. This is definitely her movie, definitely her central stage kind of character in terms of her revenge journey. This film's main protagonist and hero character is played by Lily Ho, which is famous from the Intimate Confessions of a Chinese Corset, bit of a mouthful, which I believe was on the Shaw Scope Volume 3 box set, which I haven't got around to watching as of yet, but I know she's very good in that film, and definitely a staple kind of actress within the Shaw Brothers kind of library. And this was an opportunity for her to be a central stage character, and her character was really pissed off and really angry with the murder and strangulation of her older sister, left for dead, and the nephew basically running for his life, reporting back to her basically the ideas of what's happened in terms of four men during the opening of the film, basically smacking him around, beating him up quite viciously and quite cruelly as well, and then trying to take advances on the woman, which is defended herself, leading to a potential rape, but doesn't actually get to that point, and instead gets to the anger of one of our main villain characters, in terms of the Chang family, if I'm saying correctly, and basically strangles this woman in cold blood, just straight up leaves her for dead. They try to find the kid as well, but unsuccessful, and they decide to go to the town and basically kind of chat up with some hookers, essentially, on the local brothel. Basically, straight away, the film is super fast-paced, and it's really impressive how it gets straight into that kind of material. You know, it does the classic kind of Shaw Brothers tropes in terms of revenge storyline. You've got our main leading character, you've got our four kind of villain characters with interesting kind of backgrounds and gimmickry. One has a whip, and I think one is known as the kind of the ghost dagger killer, whatever his name is. It has like dagger kind of weapons and has a very unique kind of clothing. You've got a villain character all in black, who is basically escaping from justice, who's been hiding out in the Chang family for quite some time, and basically kind of manipulating and whispering into plating one of our main villain characters into doing various kind of things, you know, allowing temptation to kind of be the center of his mind, in terms of being a very kind of arrogant, very beast-like character, as referred to multiple times in the film. Someone who is quite an expert in the bow as well, in terms of, you know, his kind of status. So definitely someone who comes from a rich family, someone who is surrounded himself by bad influence, essentially. And we find out more about that character as we go along in terms of the film. But as I mentioned, she is hot on the trail, tracks down these individuals to the local kind of town brothel, and basically she's surveilling the kind of the scene, and basically infiltrates immediately within the first kind of, you know, 20 to 30 minutes. And this leads into a pretty awesome multiple kind of assailant kind of fight sequence in terms of the kind of the form weaponry work. You've got a big open court location, you've got the initial main bad guys which are kind of hanging out there, and you've got the various kind of security kind of guards, a part of that brothel, basically standing in a way which kind of demonstrates her kind of ruthlessness, her cold-bloodedness, in terms of, you're getting in my way, I'm going to slice you down, and showing off her skill sets as the kind of introduction of that first initial fight presented. And she's pretty awesome, she's pretty badass in the film, definitely presents herself as very kind of almost kind of like come drink with me kind of, you know, attitude. Has the very that kind of long kind of hat, all in white kind of clothing, hair tied back. They do this thing again, like in most kind of Shaw Brothers and Hong Kong movies, where they mistake the person as a man, which actually turns out to be a woman. I don't know how they kind of get these confused, but it's kind of funny to kind of see that kind of play out. And she has a very unique kind of sword with a kind of an end tip, and we get a pretty awesome little fight sequence. One of the things before I get into the initial main story is that they do use a lot in terms of the nephew character, which is on there in terms of the bottom. I was a little bit concerned initially because I didn't really fully buy a lot of his scenes, if I'm being completely honest. He's not necessarily a bad actor. I just thought a lot of the fight sequences, and I can see what they're trying to do. They're trying to make this kid have some skill sets as well. Obviously, the initial encounter, he was scared out of his mind, so his initial approach would be to hide and run. Makes sense. So, but he does come across quite a few older, more skilled kind of base, kind of, martial artists or, bow experts or kind of, forms of weaponry swordplay kind of, villain characters. And he just put them through their paces a little bit in terms of, trying to jump on top of them and go underneath them and attack them and using the environments. And it's kind of amusing at first. Almost plays like a comedy in a weird way, almost like a sketch show. I don't quite understand if it's meant to be taken seriously or not, or is actually genuine, but we do something quite unexpected in terms of paying off those sequences, which I actually quite appreciate in terms of keeping up in terms of the 15 rated and the kind of the blood-soaked revenge kind of drama that's taking place. So there is quite a unexpected and welcome kind of conclusion to those sequences, which I don't want to reveal too much here, but I think it was a good little kind of cap off in terms of those ideas. But getting back to Lily Ho's character, there's a revelation in the film. It basically turns out to be this villain, this person who's murdered her older sister, is connected to a wealthy family, the Chang family, and basically her family and the Chang family made an arrangement many, many years ago, decades ago, that these two people would basically be married one day once they come of age, of a certain point of age. And that realization that this person bears the same kind of jaded kind of Amphlett that she has, and this person that she knew as a kid has swayed so far away into murder of not just any person, but her own sister, her own family, and it's a heavy burden to kind of swallow. And she has to think about the bigger picture in terms of what's going on. She knows that she can't marry this person. She wants full-blown blood-soaked revenge, being the fact this person has attempted to kill her a few times now with a failed assassination attempt early on in the film, and she decides to take matters into her own hands in terms of handing him over to the authorities, which is where you get the much more, I would say, interesting and unexpected kind of second to third act in terms of where the film goes. It becomes less of a traditional type of revenge movie, but more of a highly emotional internal drama, kind of family going back and forth with each other. And I like the fact that both the parents and both kind of family get involved in this, especially the mother of the villain character, which I do believe is actually the director of the film, if I'm not mistaken. And she definitely holds her own and has some pretty awesome and unique kind of fight sequences in terms of the kind of the swordplay weaponry work, and definitely is deluded to what's going on and saying, you're not taking my son away from my only son. Who cares about your sister? Who cares about what he's done, being a beast, whatever? We're going to protect him. We're going to make sure he's okay. Complete and utter delusional nutbag woman. It's stepping in, having some swordplay fight sequences. You've got the parents of the host character stepping in as well. And you've got the two main villains, as mentioned, also kind of on the sidelines, kind of seeing how this kind of family squabble will kind of resolve and trying to step in there for a bit of fun, evil kind of fun, laughing kind of fun. Overall, I'd say Lady of the Sword is a really nice surprise for a Shaw Brothers film. Being the fact this is 1971, it feels like a mid-80s films. It feels very much in the same kind of decade as the 1983 Lady Assassin. It feels very much ahead of its time in terms of offering a very mature, very kind of emotionally charged kind of family kind of drama that's led into a series of murders and kind of, blindsiding kind of betrayals, and you've got bad influences and a lot of just unfortunate series of events that have taken place. And there's definitely a few surprises in there. Some of the fight sequences are just really well choreographed, big epic staging, very Kill Bill in some regards in terms of the amount of bloodshed and violence that actually just happened in the film. It definitely is 15 rated for sure. And I really like where the film went and the weight of her losing her sister, trying to protect her nephew, and also this person that she knew decades ago is responsible for this, and trying to not rock the boat too much in terms of the the two families that are so close together in this regard. And, you know, she has to make some really tough choices in the film, and you can really feel that and the emotional way that's kind of taking on her for sure. And it leads into some pretty awesome martial arts and some swordplay-based fight sequences, and some unique ones as well, with the villain characters having their signature as well alongside the film. So definitely a very entertaining film, definitely very emotionally charged. It has a very unique perspective in terms of a female director, adding her kind of 2 cents in terms of not just the action and the story, but also stylistic choices I think are interesting. I think the staging is quite fun and quite dynamic, and having a really compelling, really good performance from Lily Ho in terms of her kind of character, and definitely being the more ruthless and the more vulnerable side in terms of a tough spot that she's in, trying to do the best that she can. I think it's definitely a good journey to go on to. So what are your thoughts and impressions with Lady with the Sword? What are your thoughts, guys? Please comment down below. So in the meantime, guys, I'm for reviews. Signing out.